Stephen emails, I saw Bodge tonight on the news and he was smirking all the way through the interview. He said there was nothing in the data that would lead him to introduce any new restrictions. That's 50,000 daily infections and 1,000 deaths a week. Lockdown incoming then. They do smirk. He and every single one of his enablers around him, they just can't stop smirking. A smirk should be the logo of the Conservative Party. Well, I mean, it practically is. Every time they show up on TV, there they are. Doing their utmost to suppress a laugh. And I suspect that the reason is because to them this is a game. It's a game of making money and holding on to power and getting things done and your future secured by, by doling out favours to friends and acquaintances. And but it, more than anything, it tells me that they know they're getting away with it, much to their amazement and amusement. There doesn't seem to be any amount of abuse up with which we will not put. Finally, it's taken me 45 minutes to get that sentence right. Up with which we will not put.
Affirmative.
No limits no limits to the amount of abuse. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Smirking their way right the way through this pandemic and right the way through the economic misery that they have visited upon us for no apparent benefits whatsoever. Zero. The rest of the world can't believe it. Well, the 60-odd% of the population that don't vote Tory can't believe it. What we done to deserve this, they say. That's the latest smirking minister. Smarms their way across our TV screen, just doling out statistics. They just seem to be a numbers spewing machine. Oh, well, of course, it's like £3 million more than last year and 52% more than there was under a Labour government and 83% of the 15 to 19-year-olds. And it's just like numbers and numbers and numbers and numbers. And any time their inquisitor tries to pose a question, tries to stop this stream of digital verbiage coming out of them, they just talk louder. And then, and if they can't think of anything to say, they'll just start saying and just to shut their inquisitor up, just as they can take up as much airtime as possible until their allotted space on that program is over and they can stop spewing out this stuff. God, it's painful to listen to. But on a lighter note, let's have Yorkshire, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Are you well?
Yes, very well, thanks.
Quickly on to Smug. That was the most supercilious, sneering set of remarks about the Tory party. But he was commenting on the opposition, saying, they can't like each other very much.
Yeah, that was his point, yeah.
God, it was even worse than if I'd been in the towering inferno. I would have used my common sense and I would have crossed it. I mean, that was appalling. But
it's worse.
The turn of this was worse.
Well, it's actually not worse, but it's of the type. Yeah, it's just that man. I mean, really, other countries must be guffawing at us. He is one of our elected representatives. Can you believe it?
I mean, if someone had tried to get him into Faulty Towers, they'd have rejected it as being completely unreasonable.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he's just a cartoon character, and he's been a cartoon character his entire life. Who is voting for it? I want the names of the people who keep that man in power.
It's absolutely crazy. But did you notice this week that, talk about short-termism, countries have been lobbying the United Nations Climate Commission.
Yes.
Brazil and Argentina want them to take out that meat products are damaging the climate.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, Australia and India want them to take out that fossil fuels are a serious danger.
Yes.
I mean, this is just short-term selfishness, and they're not even ruled by Johnson. Not all of them.
Short-termism is what will do for humankind, because Nobody wants to make a sacrifice in the short term, even if it's a small one, for a benefit in the longer term. We're not remotely interested in that. So we will do something about global climate change when the waters are lapping at the underside of our nostrils and not before. Well, only when it's too late will we actually do something.
Absolutely. And talking about being too late when we do something, how come is it that Johnson's saying, oh, yeah, COVID rates are terrible, yeah, they're going up, but they're fitting in with what we predicted?
This is our plan.
Does that make it okay that there's 130 deaths a day? I mean, it's like their policy with floods. Yeah, they're not doing great things, floods. And then when they say, oh, yeah, floods are predicted and they've happened. So that seems, is that all right then? No, of course it's not all right.
Well, it depends on what you mean by all right. If you mean, will they still be able to maintain their grip on power? Yes, because they know that there's a significant minority of people in this country that will vote for them regardless, because they pinned their hope on them. They were promised a better life, and they're going to stick with them until they get it. All right, this masks thing. It was all about the masks this week. Health Secretary Sajid Javid, Super Saj, Sajman Jav, earlier this week suggested MPs and ministers should wear a face mask in the crowded House of Commons. His Sajness clearly did not get the memo. The Tories don't wear face masks in the House of Commons because it associates them with the virus in the minds of the viewers. They want to be dissociated from it in the minds of the public. So we get the Labour benches all masked up and looking frightened and clearly in the midst of a pandemic, while the Tory benches are masked-less and so seem strong and past the pandemic. It's visuals. It's just PR. It's the political game. It's all about winning at whatever cost. And then we have that performance artist who uses fake politeness as a weapon, that etiolated ghoul, Smug.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
When asked the perfectly reasonable question about why the Tories are not setting an example while 120 people die of the virus every day, Smug said that Tory MPs do not need to wear coverings in the House of Commons because Tory MPs know each other and have a convivial, fraternal spirit. He's not stupid enough to actually think that. It's a game to him, point scoring. While 120 people die of the virus every day, he's playing one-upmanship word games trying to belittle his opponents. You know, just like Jesus would. I mean, let's just think about that. 120 people die of this thing a day. That's as many as you would get inside a commercial airliner. Do you think that if a commercial airliner was smashing into the ground in this country every day with a loss of every life on board, that we might be doing something to avoid that? Or at least it might be top of the news? I mean, it's not like it's not like it's happening everywhere. We're now the worst performing country in Europe. Again. Under the same management that brought us the worst death rate on Earth outside of the US and Brazil, countries with many hundreds of millions of people more than we have. And instead of helping us to make the right choice by taking visible precautions, that same government are instead telling us to do one thing while doing the opposite themselves. Again. And trying to be archly witty about it and hugging themselves in delight about how awfully clever they are. I mean, have you ever seen anyone so absolutely thrilled with himself as Smug? And the actual Health Secretary, Sajman Jav, suggested MPs and ministers should wear a mask in the Commons, you know, considering how crowded it is and all. And you would expect from this circus of ineptitude, Downing Street declined to back him, insisting that masks are a matter of personal judgment. What can that possibly mean? How can you make a personal judgment when the wearing of a mask is not for your protection, it's to protect others from what you might have? I mean, what thought process are we talking about here? To come to your own judgment? I mean, the most selfish will take no precautions to save others. leaving the unselfish exposed to possible death whether they wear masks or not. It's like saying that stopping at a red light is a matter of personal judgment. Of course, if you're in a hatchback, it already is.
Correct.
On Wednesday, Sajman Jav, Super Saj, the health secretary, called for tourists to set a good example by masking up to help avoid COVID restrictions being reimposed. And Number 10 appeared surprised that Javid had issued the call to set a good example and declined to back his advice. Because setting a good example isn't in the script, is it, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
So Smug was grilled on the subject in the Commons, and he said there is no advice to wear face masks in workplaces. He said the advice on crowded spaces is with crowded spaces with people that you don't... The advice on crowded spaces is with people that you don't know. We on this side know each other. That's not in the biblical... I presume that he didn't mean it in the biblical sense.
Disgusting.
Know each other. He said, we on this side have a more convivial and fraternal spirit and therefore are following the guidance of Her Majesty's government. Oh, Her Majesty's government. Aren't they magisterial?
No.
And the Twitter first went into spasms of outrage, rather missing the point that he only said it to get one over on the Scottish MP who asked him about it. Games. Slyly implying that the superior Tories get on with each other while MPs from other inferior parties don't. That was the point of what he said. Had nothing to do with masks or anything else. It's just a game. Point scoring. Just having fun, you know. Why shouldn't he be having fun? I mean, the downturn in the economy and the economic disaster that is Brexit for us little people won't affect him at all. In fact, he just gets richer. And his fans seem determined to vote for him even as they bury their dead and queue for those uplifting food banks. It's the same with the whole government. I mean, they're doing just fine, thank you very much. It's why they always seem to be smirking. They're getting richer and getting away with it. And they can rely on their fans voting for them because they have been persuaded that it's all okay as long as the other side are upset. It's just so easy for them. If only there wasn't a mountain of dead people in their rearview mirror, it might not seem so bad. And the return of mandatory face coverings in certain settings is one of the measures contained in the government's Plan B, which comes as a surprise to me. I didn't know they had a Plan A. Health bosses are freaking out, urging ministers to implement that plan now, fearing of a winter crisis in the NHS. COVID-19 cases spiking massively upwards. But ministers are resisting, insisting they remain focused on the vaccine rollout. How's that going, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Coming to a stuttering halt. And their popularity just keeps going ever upwards. There is no amount of pain up with which we will not put. I'm on a roll now. Twice I've got that sentence right. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
I can't believe it.